Hey, thanks everybody. Thanks. You're welcome. Thanks. Loving it. Hey, talk to you more. All right. Glad we're here. It's Saturday night. We're live in Hollywood. That's why we got all the news. That's what we're talking about. Welcome to the studio. You know what? In honor of this, I'll go eat. Maybe one more thing. Maybe a full trip, but it'll be enough. Enough for me to move. You know what I'm saying? I mean, maybe. No, that's just let's get a little bit. Oh, nice and carry. Oh. 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 You know I'm kidding. Oh man, fuck that. Oh. Whoa. Oh god. But really, we all know what that was really about was just more. My disgust with the bad lighting. Come on. There we go. Get bigger or get smaller. Alright. Okay, folks. There we go. Let's get this. There we go. Get some this dramatic Hollywood lighting. Look at that. Oh. Okay, now we're in. Right, guys? Can you believe this? Here we are. It is March 11th. March 11th, 2022, down here in the Hollywood Hills. Only a handful of you have watched me go through these beginning at Monkey Mountain, where on the Monkey Mountain ones, I had to take that down a bunch, and I lost a bunch taken down because of the era of censorship, which will probably be, if you're checking these out, like, it's probably later, like way later in time, you come back, like, I probably did something, like, big, or you realize, like, what's up with me, like, how dope I am, or, you know, that I'm dealing with aliens, or I'm a high-level multi-dimensional spiritual being, or whatever you want to put on it. And you probably, like, you know, went back. Maybe, you know, my brother's J Money, and that was sick. And, you know, maybe figured out I produced him on TikTok and, like, did some amazing stuff. And, you know, maybe this is like 10, 20, 50 years from now. Maybe I'm a historical person at this point. To be honest, my trajectory in being a West Pointer is definitely on par with that, especially with all the stories. So it could be that you're watching this, I don't know, maybe on another planet 10,000 years in the future. Because we're at that point in the Earth technology where I was like, I'm 46 years old in 2022. So I grew up half before the internet and half after the internet. And I was in an early adopter family. And while being, you know, being abducted by extraterrestrials, or grays, whatever they are, they still haven't, like, at this point in time, they still haven't come clean about whatever the multi-dimensionals are, if they're like, or aliens or whatever, or any of the non-Homo sapien centric characters of life. So that's kind of like what we're dealing with right now here on the ground. So it's entirely possible. And so I say all that just to be like, okay, I understand that because of the formation of the internet and now the super globe consciousness and being a systems engineer, I can understand that other life forms that have sent other craft here, I've figured out that they for sure can link into the internet itself or scan it or probe it or whatever. And it's for sure, once you do that, they're for sure beaming it back to whatever their point of origin is. And, you know, I think when you go through, I haven't read this anywhere, but I'm assuming I do the calculations that if you send it through enough different star systems sequentially, it sort of transcends time in a way. because then it'll start zipping around, whatever, and the relative motion is like really what determines time, the sensation time or time itself, and how data is carried and all that stuff. So we're at a certain point now where this transmission, I'm pretty sure it's quality enough to get through an internet that's quality enough to get to these other life forms scan the net enough that like this transmission, maybe an historical figure, this could be one where it's like boundlessly going through communication networks, at least galactically, whatever the beginnings of that is. And I may have done enough stuff to be, important enough to be studied all over the place, which, now that I'm taking it in, that would be appropriate for like a Jean-Luc kind of thing. And for sure, as I'm saying it, I'm sure there's a ton of people like that on the planet. My old joke about Hollywood was that a UFO is a celebrity limo. I think it's pretty good. So I'm kind of getting galactic here in Hollywood for sure. I've been here now, living here since like it's like 2 months. Is that right? Yeah, I moved out here in January 15th. Now it's March 22nd. I've just been going around on one wheel, doing the hustle. Started off sort of like WeHo and Runyon Park area over on Poinsettia, and covered all that territory out to really like Beverly Hills. Interesting enough, I didn't really like Century City was right out of my range. I should go to the mall. I should go to Century City. Anyway, Century City Westfield Mall, love it. It's an experience. It's a lot more. The Westfield Century City Mall. It's more than a mall. It's an experience. And yeah, I should go over there again. Plus, there's a ton of agents and CAAs right there, and boxes over the hill. It's nice. It's nice. So yeah, and then now I'm in this section, Whitley Heights, which is in the Hollywood Hills, and I've been covering around here. And since I'm on one wheel, I'm getting a lot of data here. So yeah, at this point, if you're coming in, I'm explaining how, now I'm at a point where I'm 46 and I've lived half my life before the internet, half my life after the internet, and I've been abducted by extraterrestrials, my entire life. And I went to West Point, and I was trained as a systems engineer and all these things. And so I know that we're in a position now where, with the technology of this transmission, just even this one here, I'm live in Hollywood, with over-the-counter stuff to the internet, the human super consciousness, that extraterrestrials are definitely around the planet with their ships, and they're able to technologically probe, scan, or take information off of the internet. Like, that would be a basic function, I believe, for what we have proof is already here. That being the case, if they're scanning the internet for data, for information, they're for sure beaming it back to whatever their point of origin was. And I was explaining to, myself earlier that based on the other factors for me being like celebrity, West Pointer, having been abducted by the Greys a lot, probably maybe even more than 1,000 times, that I'm likely a historical figure, or it's like high probability that I can become one. So it would make sense that these transmissions that I'm doing would go out basically to other planets now, like maybe in real time, and that I could be a figure to be studied. I think that all of Earth is going to be. I think all of Earth is a point of study. Now that I'm speaking about it, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of the normal civilizations in other dimensions that have communication abilities linked into here. I mean, they may send a probe to Earth just to link into the internet to see what we're doing. It may be a totally standard procedure, Star Trek style. And, it makes sense that they'd be studying like this transmission in particular. And, oh, that was John Scalia Jr. when he was in Hollywood on the one wheel during the transition time of Earth to a galactic planet. Because that's the moment that we're in from my assessment. And I know that I'm part of a center of gravity that helps hold the space, like for like light workers work, like hold the space, create the connections for the energy to come in to sort of open up the dimensions so that the ascension, you call it the ascension, but really allowing Earth to enter into the cosmic community, whatever it is. Like the problem with Earth is that there's been so much propaganda, so much brainwashing by ruling classes. So most of it malicious in intent, and so much of it directly aimed at like the soul level of the inhabitants to invert them, basically make them go to hell. That coming in to help out the planet and like open it up for contact and stuff is like it's a sticky wicket, as the British would say, because oh my god, as you're finding out, there's so many layers to it, and each one's like worse than the last. It's nothing like a 7-layer burrito. It's like a 7-layer burrito of hell, and that's so that we can just get to the point to be like, hey guys, we're not alone in the universe. But they got to explain stuff. Like for instance, we still don't know what our actual origin story is, like for humans. Like we don't know. No one can ecumenically agree on what our origin story is. Nobody knows. Like all these theories, all these myths, and like none of the science supports any of the theories. Because orthodox science says, okay, we did missing link, right? We did evolution, like they say we did a long, slow slog of evolution from basically a bunch of electrolytes and proteins were in a pond in a stormy, pre-existing Earth, and electricity hit it, like a strike hit it, and then that gave it a spark of life, and it just sort of turned into like a single-cell organism and an amoeba and a fungus and da-da-da-da. And then eventually on this long slog, you get us, right? Problem is, if that theory is true, there should be like fucking like 50 million years worth of like missing link fossils. If you just do the math on how long that type of what the orthodox science kind of says happened on the planet, there should be ample evidence to support what they're saying. If you look at the time windows of like how long the different evolutionary phases should take, and there's none for any of them. They have like no evidence to support this supposedly like airtight theory about like how we got here. And then fortunately in the last 30 years it's been acceptable to be like, hey, what if it's more like Stargate? What if humans are alien ant farm? What if we got brought here, we were genetically engineered by higher beings, or brought here from another planet, however it works, basically bad corporate tactics. And that was the case, which is really what all the spiritual texts of Earth describe, that being the case. And, if James Spader says it's true, then, I'm in it. I mean, Kurt Russell got it back in that movie, like hard, so it's got to be true. So these types of questions they come up as we try to open up Earth, because those are, when you keep those factors, those pieces of information from a population you're attempting to rule, and to be more accurate, one that you're trying to actively suppress and keep deactivated to slave them out, you have to inform the populace, you have to tell them some things like, hey, for one, you've been asleep, so wake up. And then it's like, oh, I'm waking up. And it's like, oh, by the way, you're waking up in hell. And they're like, oh, that sucks. And then, oh, by the way, not only waking up in hell, but it's going to feel like we get like the world that is not even the world that you think it is. And it was done intentionally to you. So it's like all these factors before you can even just start getting to the truth, all these emotional blockages, because the intention has been malicious. The intention has been to build hell on Earth. And when you do that, there's a spiritual component that you have to do to make it that bad. And, we've turned the corner on that, because I've been dealing with this since like 81, because I was born in 76, and my contact began in '81 in the San Fernando Valley, and so I've been sequenced with this stuff beginning then. And I'm not the only one. Like, as I've gone through, I've talked to a lot of people. A lot of reason they don't want Gen X in. A lot of reason Gen X basically got banned from society was because we were like sleeper indigos and like a huge batch of soul sequence like indigos and light workers and walk-ins and 5D people from all around the world, like all around the universe, all around the quadrant. Bunch of hybrid fucking aliens. And then 90s, like our parents like let us be feral, which made us free. It was non-corporate dependency. And then 90s music, 90s culture was like, don't trust corporations, like be free, like independent sovereign, believe the Constitution, be extreme, be on a skateboard, you know, all that type of shit. Dennis Leary, like, I'm an asshole, you fucking have a gun, eat your steak, fucking, that's fine, as long as like you all love each other. And America's supposed to be like a bunch of create your own realities, not everybody works for the one corporation and fucking like henpecks each other. And so they didn't let Gen X was like, our motto was basically sleep in and watch the world burn. And we did. Most of us did. Like, from what I can tell, most of us did chill out, sleep in, develop, and watch. And now the world's burned. We watch it burn, and now it's our time to come in and do our thing. And I'm definitely on that tip. And I went deep into what my path was, which was this West Point entertainment, multi-dimensional existence. As sort of like a galactic away team member, basically like a tactical time travel unit work. I'd say like Galactic Federation, but it hasn't been formalized and it hasn't been in the open. So, which would be consistent with that in a Christopher Nolan sort of way. I think Tenet was a really good example of that. Realizing Tenet, I don't know if you've seen Tenet, but in Tenet, and this is spoiler alert, so you can I'll give you a few seconds, but I'm going to describe the opening of the movie. It's a front-loaded spoiler for Tenet. Pause it. Maybe 3, 2, 1. Okay. So in the beginning of Tenet, he goes through this organized counterterrorism exercise at this European Philharmonic, and it goes whatever, and they're battling these Eastern European baddies or whatever, and the hero, I forget his name, but the protagonist gets taken hostage. The operation goes wrong. He gets taken hostage by these Eastern Europeans. He gets brought out. They torture him, and he, instead of giving up the secrets, he bites on a cyanide pill and kills himself. And then he wakes up on not a CIA, but an intelligence agency ship in the middle of the ocean, where they inform him that it was a fake pill and that the whole thing was a job test. And that the only way to get into the unit that they had was he was the first one to do it, that you had to actually think you were killing yourself to show them that you would go that far. And then also it makes you officially dead on the books. And so it brings you into this whole other world where it's sort of the world of the dead, where people are operating with impunity and total true anonymity because they've done that for them. And so what Nolan's showing us there is that stuff's true, because then the movie goes on that rich people have, where they have these Freeports. And Freeports are these holding cells in these, I'm trying to remember, international airport, international airport areas where they have temporary holding spaces. So a lot of these people keep their art and other valuables in these spaces. And the thing is that the Freeports are they're not bound by normal law. And so he starts to show us that there's these spaces, these times and spaces that not even aliens or anything, just really intelligent humans are already operating in, that allow them to exert more influence over the reality than any normal person could. And they basically can be outside of the law. And so that's a large part of what's happening right now on the planet, is the populace is being informed of sort of these multidimensional spaces that have been used mainly against them. That's what happens when you create all these LLCs, and you daisy chain a bunch of LLCs into offshore accounts, and then That's one thing. And then these people also found a way to create their own nation states that are outside of like any modern law, connect those, and then start self-legislating these other sort of like unlegislated areas like the ocean and these other places where they basically made themselves invisible sovereigns of these territories that are extrajudicial, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word. And so to decloak that aspect of it is, one of the big parts of it. Because then you can start to see, oh, okay. Because you go, oh, it's like, it's this, it's an invisible enemy, It's like, it wasn't climate change. It wasn't, let me see. I got one that I wrote myself. That, turns out the number one threat to Earth, it wasn't climate change, overpopulation, or a lack of resources. It was an invisible, ruthless ruling elite. So we caught them all. You're welcome. Yeah, we did. And now it's in the process of we the people. It's been going on. This portion of the populace had been, too brainwashed by the political parties to be able to see it. But I mean, I'm here in Hollywood, man, and I'm an LA native, and I lived in LA since the '70s when I was a baby, and I've been here consistently since '05, and been in Hollywood off and on like since '05 all the time, whether it was doing stand up or acting or whatever, street performing, or just having a good time, because Hollywood's a great place to have a good time. Oh no, she's missing her track. Um, so when Weinstein, like, he was untouchable king of the city, right? Because when you get down here and you're in it, you have the vibe sensitivity that I do, like a Jedi level, basically. And a lot of people do here. But a lot of actors, a lot of performers, a lot of artists, a lot of regular people, they're at that level. That's the thing about LA. It's like 4 or 5D a lot of the time, and you can feel it when the people are around, like use the force, Luke. And so when Weinstein was in town, he like lord it over, and he's in jail, man. Like the fact that he's in jail is like insanely awesome for one, but unthinkable in like 2014. These guys are untouchable, and I think it's good time for people to realize it's not that these things are going to happen in the future. It's already happened. That guy, there's no way anybody would have thought he would be in jail, let alone the fact that everybody forgot about him already. They literally threw him away. They locked him up and threw away the key. That's a classic scenario. And it's him go back to the time culturally, like in that moment, and feel what it was like when the king of the city and what that means. Because now when you start to connect the dots on that, you go, oh, they got Epstein, they proved that. They got Maxwell, they proved that. And then Weinstein was working with them. That was part of he was like the Hollywood guy for them. So when you start to process that for real, which the vast majority of the population is doing, it's just they're not telling you that, because they're not going to tell you. Like, what? Are the bad guys going to be like, oh, we took a Gallup poll, and it turns out 75% of you know we're the bad guys? Like, they're never going to, you know what I'm saying? Like, till their dying breath. They're the best con men you've ever seen. But that's the case, And so it's just all coming apart. But that's just Hollywood specific, where, Weinstein went down, the NXIVM cult got found out, college admissions scandal, probably missing out a bunch, but basically like a bunch of people who were previously untouchable, yeah, they got touched. And that's been the case going on for 4 or 5 years now, like, go figure. And there's just a lot of them to do. If you're going to do a global anti-corruption wave before you can bring Earth to another level, it's just a lot of man hours, man. I mean, think about all the Netflix crime episodics you've ever seen, and how long it takes just to put a few people in jail. Like, especially even if they got them dead to rights, even if they're like, fucking, dude, we caught this guy just murdering the shit out of somebody on tape. Like, it's still, like, those guys still get off, you know? So, none of this is guaranteed. And the fact that it's gotten as progressed as far as it has is incredible. It's a true miracle. And I mean, when I thought about this stuff way back in the day, because like I said, you know, I'm dealing with all these extra dimensionals. So I would do the calculations even as kids. Oh man, you know, what's the trajectory on that of like opening up the whole planet to get the? Because you have to clear out the karma to a certain level. You gotta get all these like big data, and that was before big data existed. I was thinking about that stuff in the '80s, and that's why when the computers really hit and the internet went up, man, I was happy because I could figure out. So I was already thinking that way anyway. Big data, big trends, whatever. But when you're younger, they just go, "Oh, it's kind of vague, you know, generalized." But yeah, but that's what big data is. Like big data and philosophy, which is the higher levels. You know, it is vaguer and it is more generalized. So it's not a disparaging thing to say. But yeah, like so I would have been frustrated because it seems like it would take forever. But I didn't. When you're a kid, you don't realize the size and scope of the world, what the numbers mean. It's like, holy shit. And when you change that many people, then it turns out when you change that many people, so much karma comes off, so much desire is summoned, so much aliveness comes through. That to balance it properly, man, you need the Schumann frequency to just go off the charts, man. You need these solar flares because the sun, whatever the nature of it is here, is the celestial generator. It's the life generator, whatever the hell it is. And there's theories about what it is now because everybody's waking up and you know, none of the information is straightforward at this point. But it is the life generator, whatever it is. Whether you think we're in a simulation or that this is the real deal baseline reality or however you want to parse it, it's still the reality generator. And the metrics are that we've needed these essentially unprecedented solar flashes happening in the last few years to sort of like white light burn off. This is like the human consciousness and like everybody's waking up, all this like bullshit's coming off them, all this bullshit karma because it's slaves waking up. What do you want? It's like bad. It's like pig pen energy, right? Then the solar frequencies, the solar flares come in and just kind of fry it off. It's like clean water liquefying it, right? And then that sort of balance is where Gaia as a consciousness, then it can start resonating, you know, and like getting its balance. And is a lot of the attack on, you know, we humanize these attacks like, oh, it's a slave planet. Well, they've been enslaving us, but they've also been going after the Earth itself, actually, like the actual Gaiac consciousness, and they know it. And then the sick part is they'll do the attacks and make Earth sick, and then they'll blame us for it. They go, oh, there's so much pollution, you know. You should feel bad, 20-year-old girl in the Philippines who drives like, you know, maybe 50 gallons of gas a year on her moped. You should feel bad. It's not my cronies at the table firing off nuke testing and doing massive industrial pollution in China and doing organ harvesting. It's you driving the moped in the Philippines. Like you should feel bad for all of our sins. Like, and that's, you know, that's why they're masochistic, and that's the extra portion you gotta do to build hell. Like, not only do you wreck the planet, but you make the inhabitants think that they're guilty for it. That's how you get the downward spiral of misery and depression that is their trademark. You know, so it's not just bad businesses, it's not just bad corporation. It's actual devil work, you know, and they pride themselves on it. I got to give them that, and they run it like a dojo. If you get to a certain level. I mean, here's their trick: is their organization is telling their initiates that they are engaged in degrees of enlightenment when they're actually engaged in steps of brainwashing. And what they don't tell them is that brainwashing, they take them down to a certain point, and they take them past a point of no return before they tell them who they're being allegiant to. You know, it's like Satanism is the world's worst pyramid scheme. and you know, a lot of the business models are in harmony with it, and a lot of the infrastructure models are in harmony with it, and that's how they run. That's how they run their organization. They get their people trained up on what their particular values are, just like you would at McDonald's or something. It's like, this is how we do business, and that's how they do business. They just do run an inverted pyramid scheme where it just gets worse and worse the lower you go. But the caveat is that they get to be in charge of it, so they don't care how bad it gets as long as they're in control. Like, they have one premise. This is the ultimate fascism, right? And it's so above where they're at, they won't even understand what I'm saying. But trust me, it's the truest definition of fascism. Is that the truest definition of fascism is that there's only one reality. That's it. They're just trying to claim, oh, there's just one reality. And guess who's always in charge of that one fucking reality? Them. So you have two tells. Like, one, if somebody comes up and they're like, there's only one reality that you can live in. Is there an objective reality? Yes. Okay. But to tell somebody that there's only one reality that you can live in is the dumbest thing you could possibly say. Now, that should be the giveaway already for cults or fascists or whatever. Like, there's just one reality. No, that's horseshit. And then, so if you already aren't turned off by somebody telling you that load of crap, the surefire way you know that they're completely off their rocker is that they go ahead and tell you, okay, not only is it just one reality, but I'm the only one who knows how to run it. Like, I'm the only one in charge I'm the only one qualified to be in charge of that one reality. So everybody get in line. Get in the box, right? It's utterly preposterous. It's the dumbest scam in the history of dumb scams. And they've just been getting away with it because they've been doing it for so long, and they've basically force engineered everybody being a reality slave. That's why they poison the food, turn off the pineals, like shut down your spiritual organs, and generally just try to sonically reduce you in every way imaginable, aka the Matrix. So you don't spiritually boot up, and then if you do, you're inverted. So if you boot up, you may like reinforce their hell instead of actually ascending. And, it's a dastardly setup, and it's very toxic. It's true hell, and they got good at building it, man. They got good at it, and I haven't seen any information on it, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is a thing. Like, because there's spaceships and aliens and Anunnaki involved and all this, I wouldn't be surprised if this is just basically like it's a bad corporate galactic slave trader thing, like in Star Wars. Like, oh shit, it's just like the Anunnaki are like local galactic slave traders, and they genetically engineer slaves, and it's super screwed up because when you're on the inside like us, you think you're living a legitimate reality, and then turns out you're not. And there's probably a galactic lawyer out there who could take our civil case. like I'm Barry H. Parker. Have you been enslaved by the Anunnaki? I will fight for you. I can get you awards of lifetime amounts of money. All we have to do is sue the Anunnaki. And then like there's some Milky Way, there's probably some Milky Way court, and they're like, God damn, another Anunnaki case. Like, oh my God. Oh no, turns out there was right on the edge of creation, sir. Earth, no one saw it. It's like right on the abyss. You know how nobody wants to go to the abyss? Yeah, no, it gets weird. It's like a black hole, but worse. And like, yeah, Earth is like right on the edge of the abyss of creation. And even we don't know if it's a hologram or the void or whatever. We don't like to go there. We like to go to the resort planets. Like, yeah, no, that's why nobody went. But as Anunnaki, they'll just go to the edge and like run their little slave games. And yeah, so we caught them, and now everybody's entitled to a dope life. They're like, oh, okay. Like, did they file the paperwork? I think that. I mean, here, I, John Scalia Jr., will petition the Galactic Court in this way, if you're hearing me, to liberate Earth and to file a civil lawsuit against Anunnaki and any other party involved with legally enslaving Earth, whatever it may be. I'm just working with the best information I'm given. And, I humbly submit that to whatever local galactic legal body exists, because there's got to be there has to be some sort of like completely bureaucratic next level resolution to a lot of this, because the universe is filled with a ton of planets, man. It's like people doing business. Even people get enlightened, they still have bureaucracy. They still have a way to like resolve things, because they know like planets that have to evolve and stuff. It's all Star Trek rules. So if there's a Star Trek, if there's Galactic Federation, you're up there, you're getting this. Like, dude, at least one guy on Earth is petitioning for the resolution of this case because it's pretty clear what it is, and it's lame, and they got to quit killing us down here. It's enough is enough. If all it takes is one of us to just go, hey, why don't you bring the aliens in and like for real, the good ones, and like, you know, there's got to be alien cops somewhere. I don't believe they haven't told us the truth about anything. I don't believe that like the only set of aliens are ones just like waiting to eat us, like the Palladians. Plenty of people met the Palladians. They're supposed to be super enlightened, you know, golden aliens. A lot of people have like had encounters with them. So that right off the bat shows us that there's for sure benevolent races. So whatever, dude, like let's call in the benevolent races and just pull the Band-Aid off this thing because it's just a fucking slow motion nightmare. And quite frankly, we're ready for it because of the events that have occurred. I think I just don't want them to. It would suck if they like let the bad guys use First Contact as a propaganda tool because they'll poison the well for a lot of people because there's plenty of good extra dimensional beings, man. Because it's not just extraterrestrials. People think, oh, you know, if they think about this subject and they go, oh, when we do First Contact, you know, it's just going to be aliens. Like, oh, okay, now we have aliens. Now we have new planets to go to, right? But no, it opens up the other dimensions. So most people, they've never met like a light being. I've been fortunate enough this life to be in the presence of channelers and also like be able to go to places where light beings have presented themselves to me, and they're real and they're amazing and they're one of the fucking coolest parts of life because it's just like whoa. There's like it's ineffable, you know. You need to experience it. It's one of those things that makes life worth living, and those types of things are going to come in when we can finally have some First Contact going on. I mean, we've had First Contact, but the official ceremonial, you know, okay, this is the baseline now. This is the floor of this. Is that it's here. I know the generation's ready. Gen X is ready. Gen Z is ready. Millennials are ready. Whatever the ones before them. I think most of the boomers would be fine with it because boomers are just like fed up with everything, and whoever's left above the boomers is like they're on the way out anyway. So it's fine in terms of the demo and the resonance. Earth's ready for it, you know, and I'm fine with talking things in because it's time. It really is, and then we can. I have no doubts that they'll be able to fix things. Like they for sure have algorithms, you know, / software for quantum computers and probably like high level tech, high level to us, but stuff that can help terraform the Earth, you know, help accelerate the healing and clean up of Earth, the healing and clean up of people. I don't think it's that big a deal, to be honest. I think it only seems like a big deal because it's been held in restraint from us, but I don't think it really is a big deal. So those are the types of things that when I think about it, that's why I'm anxious for it. I'm not anxious for it in some 1950s B sci-fi film like way. Like, oh, because I've been dealing with them so much. I'm like, dude, can we just do the anti-corruption wave and get to the infrastructure upgrades and kick the tires and light the fire? And then, but that's because that's the way I am, and that's, you know, part of the reason that I had to go through entertainment and acting and be an actor and be a comedian is so I could have my human experience and like be able to relate to people and have compassion and then true appreciation for the magnitude of what's going on here and what it's like from the ground, you know, from the ground floor. If you're just a regular person, you don't know about any stuff, and then all of a sudden you go from just being in Mayberry to, oh, it's way bigger than that. Which is why Pleasantville is one of my favorite films in that regard. Pleasantville is definitely a blueprint for waking up at least to 4D, maybe even 5D. But because you go from black and white, it's very linear, very small town. And a lot of people live this too. And, you know, then all of a sudden Shel Silverstein, where the sidewalk ends, and it's cool because I'm in Hollywood now, and I'm going through an adult version of myself here, so I'm not immune to it. Where I'm living in different spots. If you saw my last John show, I was telling him over in Poinsettia, over by the Rock and Roll Ralphs in Hollywood, closer to Runyon Canyon stuff. And so if you go back, you can see some of the shows I did there, and that was fun, but that was totally different. And I'm in this period where, because I don't have long-term housing, and I'm actually here in the Hollywood Hills, and I'm out of this place on Monday, and I don't know where the next place I'm going to live is, um, which is a whole different thing because they have this. Mainly, Hollywood's been taken over just by corporate leasing agents. So, and I haven't had a regular job in like 17 years. I mean, I did Grubhub for a couple of years, which is pretty hilarious. So like supporting Monkey Mountain with some Grubhub a couple of years ago, but my resume is like stellar, and I'm a West Point grad and all this stuff, and I have a huge employment gap because I've been doing entertainment. And the apartments, they're corporate leasing, so not only do they want money up front, but they want proof of previous employment, and they want proof of like current to future employment with all the pay stubs. And it's almost impossible to rent a place here without that. So you have to be in the corporate system to some degree to even just live regular in Hollywood, which is crazy because I thought it would be a soul town, where you could just do deals with private owners and stuff. But no, basically like it's a company town too, and it's not per the previous discussions. That corporate leasing system is linked into the inverted pyramidal system that they run. Most of it, which that conducts bad energy. So it's been interesting because I've been living in all these different. So like Monday, I don't know where I'm going to live, and it'll be dope because that's the way it's been going. I just get moved around like a little chess piece. And then sometimes I have stays in motels. Oh my God, I had this one stay at a motel in La Brea in Hollywood. It was a sex worker motel, and I didn't know that. I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was a sex worker motel. And then, man, pimps roll up in their muscle cars, set up a shop. They're doing business. I have like all my stuff in there. It was crazy, and there's a bunch of valuable stuff. And these people weren't above taking a run at somebody for some stuff. And then I was hiding out in there, and it was noisy and it was hellish. And then their chick was like turning tricks like 2 rooms down. And then I didn't know this at like 3 a.m. when she was done doing her sex work, which was crazy enough. The vibes were terrible. Her pimps come by and they just start arguments. So they get fucked more than once. It's like they do the sex work and then the pimps want the energy. It's crazy. And it was bad. And then after that, a bunch of gang members rolled in and they were howling like coyotes till the sunrise, probably for some bad shit. So I hopped out of there. That was not a good. I learned a lot that night. Before I ended up back on the other side of Hill in Studio City in a motel, which was more like a Spanish mission. So it was actually a sanctuary, a spiritual sanctuary, which is good. I had a day where I did some mushrooms up in the hills in Fryman to rejuve. That's a good story, that one. I got a wand there, my first wand. Came back down, then I've been in this spot for the last couple weeks here in the right on the precipice of Whitley Heights. It's been great. The shot right here, that's my phone looking out the window. If you look at the GoPro right here, the GoPro is the phone that this shot's coming from is right on that edge near the chimney. And yeah, it's been great up here. So my run here is done on Monday morning, and figuring out the next move, which will be interesting because that's been the way it's been going. And each spot presents a new, like, personal issues basically come up or whatever it is, like something new. It's very karmic, very magical mystery tour kind of thing. So we'll see. It's interesting. The more I release into this flow, the better it gets. And it is very. I feel vulnerable, Donnie. And now that you heard the previous 40 minutes, that's the overall context is me running around simultaneously trying to, I think make a buck, use my veteran entertainment status to get entertainment positions. Like I've been at Paramount Pictures the last few days and talking with somebody from Paramount Pictures. Carol, if you're watching, you're awesome. And then also, where else? God, putting applications everywhere. Good God. And going around in the paint jacket and filming one wheel videos and like, helping my brother who he got famous on his social media as J Money over on TikTok, and just meeting a lot of people, doing a lot of big stuff, all in the context of okay, I'm dealing with the aliens, and I'm doing light worker sequencing and all this stuff, which is mystical enough on its own. And then the world is going through all the wild stuff that it's going through, which at this point, even the most naive person knows that it's not as it appears, that's a long cry from where I've been tracking this back in the 2000s and 90s. And so we reached the tipping point where it's like the veil's coming down. Oh, and I've got to view the CNN tower right from here, which has been like, okay, I'll keep an eye on them. And a propaganda tower. We're on Snapchat every day. It's a propaganda tower. Because it's America, you got free speech. You can be like, hey, I know what you are. Like all they do is do war ads and propaganda for the highest bidder. If you saw their Craigslist, you wouldn't hire them. Let's put it that way. Same thing with the big pharma guys. I didn't believe that. You thought the COVID vaccine was like a Craigslist ad. You're like $50 to take a liability-free gene-altering shot. You'd be like, who the hell's gonna take $50 to do that? UCLA. Like, there you go, man. I wonder if they did. I wonder if they did test those out, like under some. Knowing them, they probably like did that 10 years ago. They had like a prototype. They just called something else. Like, oh, we're trying to find a cure for the cold. Come take the cure for the cold shot. God, that'd be a nasty area to have to study. All the fraudulent drug trials they would do through whatever means, because they're just like nasty people. They'll just be doing whatever. Yeah, I'm sure somebody's done that. See, now those are the kind of things we're gonna make movies about when we come out into the new reality. Even if it is Star Trek and we can go to different planets, or like everybody gets lazy boys and fucking TV dinners and unlimited Netflix or whatever. We're still gonna need movies and stuff, and we're gonna need movies to explain. We're gonna have so many questions and we're gonna have so many answers that we're gonna need movies more than ever. It's just, instead of getting comic book movies up the ass, they've been great because we need heroes right now. But on the flip side, we're gonna need all these answers to all these deep questions. Like, yeah, dude, what had been going on for 50 years with all these people? Like, oh man, we're gonna need some quality actors to come in and try to explain this stuff. Because there's going to be a lot of deep stories, a lot of cathartic stories that need to be told, and a lot of inspiring, stories, and inclusive stories. But there's going to be a lot of answers that are needed for all these different disciplines, because we've all been getting lied to for so long that when the catalog of answers actually opens up, everybody can't drink from the fire hose all the time. You got to sequence it in there. And I know that's a lot of what they do already, but it's really going to be, the light's really coming in. And there's like a lot of things are falling. So the volume of information that's going to need to be made palatable is immense. And I think overall, that's why I feel like that's mainly like why I'm here in Hollywood, is to be on that wave. And I'm not the only one on that wave. I think who's articulating it right now. And I may be a pioneer. I may be the first to be doing it because of who I am and my preparation, because somebody always has to be sort of the first to do it. And then once that happens and it's done smoothly, then a bunch of other people who are similarly or maybe even better prepared to operate in that environment come in, and then it's not a big deal anymore once you broke through that frontier. So I feel like that's why I'm here in Hollywood. I feel that's why I'm here on Earth. Why all my previous preparation to me makes sense to help provide this type of leadership. And then I think as it becomes more the normal baseline, or just accepted in the reality, it'll be good. It'll be appreciated, and then we can start to all sort of move forward through it together, and things will just get positively oriented. I think the most basic version to describe this is it's a pole shift, and that a pole shift is what causes a revolution, because you go from this to this, and everything in turn, does it. And but the thing is, I think initially the prophecies were that it was a 180 pole shift. Oh, the north goes south, south, north. I think it's a full revolution at this point. I think it goes from north to south, and then it goes over again, and then you can see all, you get all of the rotation, you get all of the perspectives, you get the full 360 in a spherical way. People think revolution like this. Well, that's one part of it, but really it's the whole sphere, the whole pole of the sphere going around. Yeah, so I think I'm here for that. I'm here for the pole to pole revolution, and helping ensure its tranquility and efficacy, and helping to give birth to a new world. And I'm not the only one doing it, but I'm certainly aware that I'm participating in it to whatever degree that I have been, and some more than others. But to be able to participate in it in the flesh at all is amazing and extremely validating, and a great honor. Maybe the highest honor my soul will ever have. And to me, that's what life is all about. So hopefully, I feel like the echoes of liberation are being felt throughout the galaxy, and which means it's like touching the universe, which means that God feels it, and when God feels pleased, it resonates back, and it's a good thing. Connection. And just wrap it up, to sum it up, just know that each of us has a piece of the prime source, God, the divine spark in us, as our quantum anchor of our soul. Our soul's wrapped over it, and so it's within us. We're quantum entangled with source. So there's no, even if you think not, you are. It doesn't matter. And everything has consciousness, has that, and so we're quantum entangled with everything. It's the law of one. So we're all quantum entangled, and it's compassionate. We're in a compassionate quantum entanglement right now. Like, we're all living it. Thanks for spending some Friday night with me here in the hills. I hope you've had a great time. I've had a great time. I got the law off my chest here. I appreciate it. Wherever you're at, keep it up. Keep up the good fight. And until next time from the JOHNiVERSE, enjoy yourself.